Well, welcome to another episode of The Billy Ho Show. Before we get started, this medal beside me was something they gave us at school in 1953-54 when the Queen's visit happened. And the government decided that every kid in the country should get a little medal like this to commemorate the Queen's visit. It was Des Hetherington and I's job to dish out the medals at our school, and so we take a packet of 38 to this class and 30 to that class and 28 to that class, and when we finished doing all that there was about 12 left over, so I got 6, he got 6, and so we had more medals than anybody else. But it was a lot of fun. So if you remember that, good on you, and if you don't remember that, this is what happened in 1953 when the Queen came. And I know she's been here a few times since then, and but there were no medals dished out, so getting a medal in 1953-54 was absolutely unique. So if you remember that, good on you. Well, welcome to another episode of The Billy Ho Show. I'm on Vancouver Island, and what I'm going to do is do a story about the logging that they did here, and they still do, on Vancouver. But the trucks they had here in the 50s and the 30s and the 40s were way bigger than what we had in New Zealand. We're struggling with Leylands and Bedfords and Commas, all those sorts of trucks to do pretty much the same work if one of these would have done. This is about a 1950s Pacific, and this is a off-highway truck that they would have used back in the day. And as you can see, it's absolutely enormous, and I'm sure if we had something in New Zealand like this in the 30s, 40s and 50s, we'd have done a lot better than what we've already done. However, in 1954 in New Zealand, the first Pacific came, and it was used by KLC to shift logs from the Kayanga forest, and it was considered a great big truck. I think they may have had about a dozen turn up there to work for KLC, and we spoke to a couple of drivers of the time back then. But just looking at this Pacific, it's enormous wheels. You can just see the doors pretty much the same sort of style in the late 50s as what came to New Zealand. Just looking at this headlight here, it's a sort of a strap to the side. It's got a little thing on the top with a little side light on top of that. Great big GM engine in there to scream its head off. And somebody was telling me that most of the truck drivers of this era are sort of slightly deaf, and I can imagine why. Sort of listen to that thing screaming its head off all day long. But just looking in the cab here, it's got twin sticks, as the R190s and trucks like that had twin sticks. This has got twin sticks. Quite an elaborate dashboard for the 50s, and it's got a chain hanging in the middle that you can just pull down. But they get bigger. I mean, this is a big truck for its time, but they get actually bigger and bigger, and you'll see the loads that went on these things. It was just absolutely phenomenal. Over behind you there's some of the stanchions and some of the trailers that would have gone on the back of this to pull the enormous loads of logs that these things did. So let's have a look at the trailers. This is one of the trailers. It's got this enormous steel boom that connects to the truck. This must be at least 10, maybe a bit wider than 10, maybe 11 feet wide, with the stanchions sticking up. And as I said, you'll see some of the loads that went on one of these things in due course. Still got enormous wheels, but there's another one next door there, wide as, and of course you needed them wide to stick those great big huge loads that they put on them. But anyway, as I said, we're just starting the story, so we're looking at the old stuff first and work our way up to the new. This is a Hayes truck, H-A-Y-E-S. It's a Canadian-made truck, and somewhere along the line, some people who work for Hayes left Hayes and started a company called Pacific. And there's a Pacific beside me here, but it's just interesting that the Hayes and the Pacific look pretty similar. Maybe there's a few minor differences, but the Hayes truck was a big powerful thing like the Pacifics, and it was just interesting that there's one behind me made up the same way, a slightly offset cab, and all the rest of it they use to pull the logs. These trucks are called fat trucks, they call them here, fat trucks, and they're the ones that go up and get those enormous loads on and haul those big logs out of the bush. This one's missing an engine, but it still says Pacific. It's been cut out of the steel there, and as I said, enormous trucks. This is a Kenworth, so we've got Hayes, we've got Pacific, and we've got Kenworth all getting into the logging act. And you can just see how high this whole thing is. I mean, I'm 6'2", so I've got to reach up there to open this door. And looking in the cab there, it's got everything a Kenworth would have, but sit in the seat and wind the window down, and here I am. And it's quite an elaborate, even though it's not very wide. So we've got the window winder on the off side, and then we come in this very small glove box, and a whole bunch of gauges in the middle. Then we've got the speedo and the rev counter, and more gauges on the left hand side. Looking down on the floor, great big huge accelerator. What we've got here is an automatic gear change, and it just clicks in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sort of wends its way, so you can choose which gear you're going down the hill in or up the hill in. But there's the view out the front. You can certainly see for miles. Absolutely wonderful. So there's a Kenworth logo on the little arrangement just there, just to keep yourself cool in here. But this would be quite a modern truck, engines out of it of course. And right in front of you got this little tag here that tells you that there's no air, so until that flicks itself away you can't actually move. There you go. So we've got Pacific, we've got Kenworth, and Hayes, which is the Canadian truck, is in the mix as well. And it's just interesting that they're painted yellow and green, got a green bonnet and yellow body. You can see on all those photographs that you look at with those enormous loads on, they're all pretty much this colour. But Hayes itself also built enormous trucks. So here's one here. Now finally in this yard we've got a modern day Pacific, and great big radiator protector on the front of it with the logo sort of cut into the steel down the front there. But these are, as I said, absolutely enormous trucks. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go into the bush and see if we can find one. There's a couple of blokes I know who I could ask, and see if we can go into the bush and see one of these things doing its thing. So let's go to the bush. Would you like to come and catch a pig with me tomorrow?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Excellent. what's happening is there's an off-highway truck up there, they call them the fat truck, and that's the truck with this enormous loads of impossible logs that you see in the photographs, and in front of it there's a highway truck that's done something to a shaft or something, so it's broken down, and the big truck sort of got a chain between it, and they're trying to just tow it out of the way, or maybe even tow it down that hill we just came up, which is going to be interesting. But anyway, that's what's going on there. Oh, they unhooked him.
Yeah, he's going to go turn around and then give him a tug down.
Oh, right, frontwards.
He didn't want to have to go attached all the way backwards.
Right, fair enough.
Happens a lot, actually. We pulled one right up Canooma Hill with the fat truck there. Same thing. Same. Broken drive. Broken drive line.
How hard's that to do? How hard's a broken drive line to do?
On a highway truck, it's very easy to do.
Oh, well.
Yeah, if you pop the clutch, generally it'll snap input shaft or a power divider or U-joint. Like this one broke the U-joint here.
Wow.
This one, actually, it turns out it's not his fault. Looking at it, half the U-joint is missing. It's worn right off.
Wow.
And, and it's blue.
It just, so it ate itself.
So somebody didn't grease it. So
he's got a chain on that truck, the red one behind it, so the red one's just on the brakes.
it's on the brakes, yeah. So he was pulling him over the hill. He'll probably disconnect here soon.
We're just going to keep on the road.
Just keep him ahead.
That's quite something. You'd probably drive one of those fat trucks down this road backwards.
Yeah, well, he's the right guy. He's the guy.
If he can't do it, nobody can do it.
Pretty much, yeah. So now they're going to come up here. And they're going to pull him into there. I'm just going to run back up to my truck when they get close, just in case he needs to go farther past.
And what happens to him when he gets into there?
He's going to try to put him in there
And that's where he'll stay.
until we get it fixed. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's the final destination.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Just stand at the back there and you'll be good.
So what they're going to do is the fat truck, or the big logging truck, they call them fat trucks, is pulling the highway truck along. They're going to just sit it over the side, just over there, so it's off the road. And then they're going to come back up tomorrow or the next day and fix whatever's wrong with it. They broke something, a shaft of some sort. But the fat truck driver driving that backwards, that's, as Matt was saying, he's the man for the job. He's been doing this for years, driving one of these great big trucks. And there's another fat truck coming down full of those great big logs that you see in the photograph, so he'll be coming down shortly, and it's just on my bucket list to actually see one of those going along, so looking forward to that. But anyway, it's a little bit of drama happening up here in these hills in Vancouver Island in Canada. going to turn this truck around, and hasn't got a great deal of room. So a little bit of backwards and forwards in there. Hard to the right. So a little bit over a truck width. And he's all doing it from the cab. His offside, it looks like he's going to get out and guide him, because he hasn't got a great deal of room backwards or forwards. There he goes. And this is truck driving at its best. Inches of back, just inches from that big steep cliff on the other side. Might get it around this time, but not quite. This is absolutely, you're not going to see this anywhere else, folks. How to turn a fat truck, a giant of a thing. And Willy's very, very pleased that he's got power steering. Not quite. No, one more time. The bolster jumping up and down on the back there. Yeah, you'll get it this time. Ooh. And once he's turned around, he's going to back down to the off-highway truck. So now he's in a position where he knows where he can see where he's going, and he'll tow that truck to get it off the highway, which is going to be just to the right of where he is now. There's a bit of a pull-off. So they're going to park the off-highway truck there, and the other truck that's waiting to come down will follow along behind. And there's the driver, checking things out, making sure that it's all suitable to do what he wants it to do. Oh, and to have a smoke. Of course. You do all that with a fag hanging out of your mouth, perfect. real truck driver. Got to take your hat off to him. Well done. And there's the highway truck. It's fully loaded. He's got a wire strop on the front of it, and the fat truck will back down, and they'll put it off to one side and fix it tomorrow. They're just clearing a few stones so the truck doesn't get tangled up with them with a bit of slippage, because that's a pretty big drop on the other side of where they're going to park it. And it's an Arctic. It's probably 40 feet long. A little bit of discussion on what and how they're going to do it.
Here we go.
What's the name of the truck driver?
Bob.
Bob.
Bob, yeah. Yeah, he's one of our most experienced truck drivers. And this is the last P16 we did. Just came out of the shop about a year ago.
Oh, okay. What's the engine in it?
That's a Series 60 Detroit.
Why isn't the fan spinning?
It's not hot enough.
Oh, okay.
So they have a switch on the dash, or the computer will turn it on for them.
Right.
So this one has the 91 Clark differentials in it. We put the Series 60 in with the Charge Air and Allison, or Hayden cooler for the Allison transmission. It used to have a tube and shell. And then the whole cab was gutted to nothing, and then all the wiring was all redone, and everything was from ground up, and everything's one off.
Wow. Yeah.
I did the one that's loaded.
Oh, okay.
This one Josh did. But I think when I did the cab on the other one, I was in the cab wiring and doing upholstery and all that for about 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So 4 weeks, about 10 hours a day, minus ordering parts and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're very labor intensive, and everything is one off now.
Wow. This is Matt, by the way. He's the boss around here.
One of. I just look after the maintenance department, so.
Here we go. You'll notice that the fan's not, oh yes it is, no it's not. The fan's not spinning in the front of that truck because apparently it's not hot enough. That's interesting. There's that wire rope. And he's going to go out on the edge there, and I'll park that truck as far as they can off to the right hand side so things can get by, and they'll come back tomorrow and fix the shaft. And he's got to judge it so he's got enough room to take him as far out as possible so he can actually get off the road and the Western Star can go in its place there. The Western Star isn't as wide as that truck, and being an off-highway truck, they're a lot wider than what the on-highway. They're a lot wider than what the on-highway truck is. The man up the front there is guiding the fat truck, saying yes, you can get past these trees, no problem at all. The Western Star's lining himself up to be just off the road. So he'll go right up to where the man in the orange shirt is. He's guiding the Western Star into place. And see the wire ropes trying to drag the Western Star slightly sideways, pulling it across. But if he goes forward another, you see that? It's pushing that Western Star sideways with that much pull on the front. I think that's about where he's going to be, just roughly about there. So he's got to have enough room for another fat truck to go past him with its big load of logs on. Pretty close, like only inches. Once those back wheels come, he'll just sort of swing slightly to the right. Perfect. Now look at this truck that's coming now. You've seen photographs of these trucks, but I never ever thought I'd see the day when I was actually physically here to watch one go by. Stacked to the absolute gunnels. Huge load. And this is what they call a fat truck. It's a Pacific. It's got an enormous load on, stacked up high, and sometimes they're even higher than this. But these things are rated to 80 to 100 tonne. Look at the size of it. man in the front's guiding him past the Western Star. And once he's through, he's got to take that all the way down to the bottom of the hill to the landing at the bottom. And looks like he's made it, no worries at all. He hasn't even touched the logs on the other truck. But there you go. Absolutely exciting stuff. Woohoo! Now there's water on the tracks here, and what the water does is it drips onto the brakes just like they did back in the day to help keep the brakes cool. As you can see on the back of the trailer there, they're all damp and wet, and it's the water doing that, keeping the brakes cool. But there they all are lined up, the two fat trucks. Well, I've just fulfilled one of my bucket list items. It's now ticked off. Coming down from way up in the hills there, put on a load of logs like this. Look at the size of it. Come down all the way in this enormous Pacific truck. I've seen photographs, and but that's about all I've seen. But to actually do it, absolutely amazing. And Jeremy and Matt has jacked all this up, and appreciate it, absolutely appreciate it. So there you go, folks. Big truck, big load. I used to say big bait, big fish. There you go.